Okay, Ty France. I gave him a D plus, and we had to give out some hard grades on this one. And I know by his WRC plus, he was technically above league average. He was at 104, but 104 in terms of your WRC plus, it's not good enough from a first baseman, especially a first baseman that hit 12 home runs for the year. Ty France really took a step back with his bat this season. And when you look at his numbers among first basemen across the league, in much of it, he was in the bottom third. So when you compare him to his counterparts across baseball, he just wasn't cutting it. The season he had is just plain and simple not good enough for what the Mariners need from him.
It was replaceable, is the terminology I used. He got a D plus from me as well. If you look at his ranks among first basemen, he was 23rd in isolated power, out of 24, by the way, 12th in on-base percentage, 20th in weighted on-base average, 13th in expected weighted on-base average, 18th in WRC+, 20th in F4. For a first baseman, it's just not good enough. And it's disappointing. We look at Ty France's stretch as a Mariner at the plate. In 2021, he had a 129 WRC+, was worth over 3 Fangraphs wins above replacement. 2022, a 125 WRC+, and 2.5 Fangraphs wins above replacement. This season, he took a nosedive down to a 105 and half a win above replacement. For a first baseman, who, by the way, his defense is not loved by Fangraphs, 36 Fangraphs by Baseball Savant, 36th percentile and outs above average. He is poor on the base paths, 5th base running run value. He is 5th. That's a Baseball Savant stat right there. He's also just 7th percentile in sprint speed as well. There's not a whole lot of positives out here besides the fact he is in the top half of the league and not swinging and missing and striking out. That's it. Everything else is down across the board, and having a slow first baseman who doesn't hit for power is like the worst combination possible.
You mean he's in the 5th percentile, right, in terms of his base running value?
Yeah, I think that's what I meant. There's a lot of numbers jumping up.
I might have misheard you. I thought you said 5th, and I was like, 5th among first basemen? That can't be right.
5th percentile, yes.
Yeah.
No.
Look, first basemen usually are not fast, but we know Ty France does not run well. What his roster spot becomes here in 2024 is TBD. He may very well be back on the roster. I guess there's a chance he could get traded. The fact he's going to Driveline is a very good sign in hopes that he could turn last season in the rearview mirror and get back to what he was doing in 21 and 22 next year. But as we sit here and give him his grade, I think this is a fair grade. I think most people would say it wasn't good enough from Ty France this year, and that's what we're sitting here saying. The numbers don't back it up. Even if you want to throw all the sabermetrics out the door, which we love to use, 12 home runs from a first baseman. 12 home runs, and he was fully healthy. He just was not hitting the ball over the fence. And at a premier offensive position, you kind of need the guy to do that. And if he's not going to do it, by the way, if he's going to hit 15 to 20, which sometimes is what Ty France does, then his WRC plus numbers and his advanced stats have to be better. His WRC plus probably has to be in the 120s, but that wasn't the case either.
And he also just needs to slug more, man. Okay, in the sense of him having 15 to 20 home runs, this is actually what I meant to say. He needs to get on base more. And I can't believe I'm about to say this. He needs to hit for a better average. He needs to produce more at the plate if he's not going to hit as many home runs. He did that the last 2 seasons, but this season he just didn't. He was also, by the way, horrible base runner. I mentioned base running value, but if you go look at the Fangraphs one as well, Fangraphs base running runs, he was 4 times as worse as his next closest season on the base paths. 4 times. So, like, either Ty France goes to Driveline and starts crushing fastballs again, which is a big part of his success each of the last 2 seasons, and becomes what should be one of his peak seasons at the plate at age 30. Either he does that, or the Mariners do seriously need to consider what their other options at first base are next year. Because if Ty France does what he did this past season at the plate next season, not only is it a failure on him, but it's an organizational failure as well to not see that and to not act on it.
If they don't trade for a first baseman this winter, they'll roll out with Ty France to start 2024. They'll see what his changes look like after going to Driveline. But if we get into the summer here, if we get around the All-Star break or the trade deadline, and Ty France isn't cutting it again, they may look to go get a first baseman at the deadline next year, or they may be calling Tyler Locklear's name, depending on how he's doing in the minors. So I think the first half of 2024 is going to be pretty pivotal for Ty France. Obviously, this year was not the year he wanted to have. Let's hope he can flush it for next year.